My daughter had an accident while playing with my husband, but he refuses to apologize. And guys, this is a direct Storytime story. Came from one of you. So, sorry for the long post. It is a long, bumpy ride, so buckle up. I am Sally, 39 female, and my partner, John, 37 male. We were in the kitchen hanging out with our daughter, Sandra, female 11, and his eldest and my stepdaughter, Lily, female 17. These are all fake names. By the way, this comes from user TrickEnthusiasm5818. And if you want to submit your stories, go to the r/OKstorytime subreddit. So, Sandra and John were horsing around, and Sandra tried to get past him. He blocked her path. In the process of him blocking her way, Sandra's hip got slammed into the counter. She was hurt and upset. She ran from the room, and I was worried, and I went to check on her with a gel ice pack for her hip. It looked to me that John bumped into her with his hip when she tried to get by. Sandra also felt him push her with his hip. She was angry at him, and I asked her what it would take to make her feel better about the situation. She jokingly said, I want to get back at Daddy. So I said, okay, let's go. So we ran in there so she could see me get her revenge, so to speak. I ran up to John and told him I got to give him the old 1-2 for Sandra because he bumped into her and she got hurt. I barely gave him just the weakest little tap on his left pectoral muscle. I whispered to him, sorry, I was just trying to cheer her up and joke her out of being mad at you. He said, it's fine. It didn't hurt. I told John that if he just apologized, she would feel better about the situation and it could be resolved. But he made excuses and said everything except I'm sorry I hurt you.
Interesting. Just a little humility would go a long way here, John.
Maybe he has demand avoidance. He instead played the victim and blamed Sandra. Bold move. Let's see if that one pays off. I got angry and raised my voice. I will admit that. I have a temper, and I do tend to raise my voice when I get angry. I said that all he has to say is sorry without all the excuses. We know it was just an accident and there was no ill intent on his part, but he is the adult and needs to show the kids that he can take accountability for his part in the accident, especially since she is the kid and she got hurt. He just argued with me that he did nothing wrong, and if she didn't try to leave, she wouldn't have gotten hurt. I argued that if he didn't block her way when she tried to leave, she would have been fine. He keeps bringing it back up again when other things happen. Him and I were playing, and I gave him a little smack with the oven mitt. He blocked and hurt his pinky in the process. He made a not-so-subtle comment about how he isn't mad and other people should act like him when they get hurt, and it's no one's fault. I told him the difference is I was apologizing to him and getting him ice for his fingers, though I did say he shouldn't have blocked because he wouldn't have hurt his finger. I also pointed out that we were both adults and Sandra is a kid and she got hurt. That's the point right there that I'm like, where's your brain?
I don't know if he knows how to father.
This feels like more like an interaction between siblings. You're right. He's acting like instead of like a dad, he's acting like it's like an older brother where it's like, well, no, she wouldn't have got hurt if she didn't try to leave. And it's like, that's not really what it's about. It's just about making sure she's fine, doing the adult thing and just going, oh, sorry, is your hip okay? And then she'll go, yeah, it's okay. And you go, all right. Well, we're okay, right? That's all we were looking for here. At least that's my sense. He said that Lily, the older daughter, so he said Lily saw it too and took his side and didn't understand why I was mad at him. She didn't see him bump into her. She never said that to me or when I was in the room, so who knows what's true. I argued that I was closer and saw it from a different angle and that Sandra felt him bump into her. Sandra is okay, by the way. It was just a scrape, but it may bruise. This just happened last night, so I'm not sure. No serious injuries, though. The issue is that it hurt more than her hip. His reaction hurt her feelings. That's the real problem here, is it's like, why are we trying to, like, blame the 11-year-old child when you hip-checked her? You clearly hip-checked her, for maybe like running through the kitchen or something.
And we're trying to invalidate her.
You're just trying to avoid any and all accountability or blame for the situation, which is making it worse, my guy. Could have been very quick, in and out, super fast, and now we're done, moving on with our lives. John is much harder on Sandra than the other two kids. We also have a son together, a 6-year-old named Jack, who is on the autism spectrum. John treats Sandra like he doesn't like her as much as the other two kids. He's been more distant with me since Sandra was born. He struggled for a few years after she was born and was not around much during that time. I feel like he missed out on the best age for bonding with her, which would be 0 to 5 years old. We moved when she was 10 months old, and he was feeling a lot of pressure and financial stress at that time, I think. Sandra believes he wanted a son and was disappointed when she turned out to be a girl, and I honestly kind of agree. He rarely tries to spend time with her, and when he does, he's usually mean to her. The stars are not aligning for you, John. This is not looking good.
You got a son eventually. That's weird. I don't know if I can ever understand that. Because my first kid, I would love for it to be a girl. But if it comes a boy, I'm not going to be like, oh no.
I'm just happy to have a son or a daughter.
If you're not ready for either of the options, then don't have a kid. It's that simple. Like, come on. What are we doing? He rarely tries to spend time with Sandra, and when he does, he's usually mean to her. I've tried to bridge the gap, but to no avail. His behavior towards her has affected her mental health in a negative way. I have told him this, and he doesn't listen to me and often refuses to talk to me about it or blames her because of her bad attitude. But she is the child. He is supposed to be the one that shows her that he loves her, not the other way around, right? Yes, correct. You're arguing like you're on even footing with an 11-year-old girl who is your daughter.
Crazy conspiracy theory. You may not think it's his kid.
Oh, he's going to say, I was gone a lot. I was at the office. Meanwhile, you had a little baby. I don't think it's mine. If that really is like you can't deal with like having a daughter or having a son. You only want one. Go adopt. Adopt. That's how you can guarantee that you get exactly what you want. Like it's a candy store, I guess. But come on, guys. Anyway, so I feel like he treats her badly because she won't kiss his butt and act like he's some kind of hero, buttering him up with fake praise. I don't either usually, which is why we fight. I am abrupt and honest nowadays, and she takes after her mother, I guess. I love my kids, and I want John to see that he is damaging his relationship with her and me with his behavior. I want to keep my family together, but I sometimes wish I could leave him and take the kids. I can't, though. I will explain why before you all scream, "Leave him! You're a terrible mother for subjecting these kids to abuse." Just listen to my reasoning before you judge me. I have thought of nothing else for many years. I am a stay-at-home mom, and we are unmarried. There is no common law marriage in my state, and I would leave with nothing after supporting him in his career and raising his children for 15 years. I also fear about the way the kids would be treated and cared for during his time alone with them if we separated. John and his parents insisted that we use corporal punishment on the kids, and I refused. John's family are firm believers in the Bible verse, "If you spare the rod, you spoil the child." I also didn't allow him to get physical with the kids. I didn't let his parents babysit at all unless I had no choice because they didn't respect my wishes on the no spanking rule. I don't believe in using physical punishment to teach kids how to behave. I think it reduces their spirit and traumatizes them and doesn't teach them anything positive. Big facts. I'm just going to say we're in agreement and move forward. I want to keep my family together. The risk of abuse and neglect goes up when parents are separated, not to mention other things like anxiety and substance abuse. I'm not saying having parents stay together and argue often is much better, but sometimes life is like voting for a president. Neither choices are great or even good options, but you have to pick the lesser of two evils. I do still love that son of a little witchy man deep down, even though I also hate his guts most days. John has some good qualities as well. He's not physically abusive. He's a good provider and he spoils us. He does love us all, Sandra too. He just has a piss poor way of showing it sometimes. He is good in the spicy arena, which is what first drew us to each other. At first, it was infatuation and a little spicy chemistry. He usually gives in to what I want, especially when it comes to the kids in the house, which is nice. And by the way, another nice thing that you can do is listen to full episodes with stories like this. All you got to do is go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts from, and search OK Storytime. And there you can peruse the plethora of podcast peculiarities as you wish. We do have a little bit of the story left. You know, I'm not a lawyer. I am not familiar with common law and marriage laws and all of this, but it's like, it sounds like you've really done the math on like what's positive and what's negative. I think maybe a conversation with parents, you know, if John's parents, anyone who's part of the support web, the support structure that you have. And if you find yourself isolated from like family, like that's like maybe another red flag there. I know that there's two sides to every coin, but it's like, if you really are worried about like abuse, like it really doesn't sound like this is a guy that you want to stay. If that is something that's even a consideration where it's like, well, we got to figure out which way is the least amount of abuse. It's like, if there's abuse in any context, really, that's not good. So I would figure out what the laws are, figure out what kind of rights that he would have to the kids.
So you're saying divorce?
I think if you're at the point where you're like weighing the different sort of variables of like where the most likely source of abuse would be coming from, like if you even have to weigh that, I just don't think that's the right guy to be with. I don't think that's a guy that you want raising your kids.
I would say therapy in this case. This seems like the first case that OP has been confronted with an issue like this. I mean, they probably talked about it before. This is the actual like first case. I'm going to say go to therapy, see where his head's at, see where your head's at, and work on a solution together, or that it might be best to have this problem apart.
If there's any doubt at all of their like actual safety, that's not a conversation. That's like a immediately needing to find a way forward without that threat. There is a little bit more here. Let's finish it off. I am also not perfect. I admit that I contribute to the toxic dynamic in our relationship. I am easily triggered and tend to yell when I get angry, but I try to at least admit to my failings and apologize when I am an a-hole. He almost always refuses to admit any wrongdoing or apologize for any of his often awful behavior. That is not a pretty picture there, OP. That is the ugly truth from my perspective. Sorry that was so long. So am I the a-hole for blaming my partner and asking him to apologize when our daughter got hurt while they were horsing around in the kitchen?
N-O. That spells.
Absolutely not. But I do think that this is just a sliver, like a little microcosm in a much larger issue overall, which is that y'all's dynamic as partners doesn't really seem to be working on all of the levels that really matter the most right now.